And we're doing the Seven Wonders of Fore today. My name is Bartle. I guide in this area here, and we're up here at the what's known as the Nugent Mausoleum. But this is also the first wonder of Fore, which is known as the Anchorite in the cell. Because this particular building here, this tall tower, this is much, much older than the mausoleum on the right hand side. And this tower dates back to the 14th century with the 100 Years' War between France and England. And this tower here, when it became redundant, an anchorite or a hermit moved in here. And these are known as the living dead. As soon as they cross the threshold, they stay in the building until they're dead, and then they come out and get buried. So the last one we're going to see when we go into the mausoleum, his name is Patrick Begley. He died in 1616, and he hasn't left the building. He's built into the wall inside in the mausoleum. This little window here is called a squint. So the good ladies of the area would come up here and they would try and contact the hermit, go, hello, hello, hi, where are you? We're down here. And he would come and he would talk to them there, and he's due to give them blessings. So the harder he prays, the better it is for everybody in the area. But he did have another gift for the ladies when they came up here. Because he's up so high, he can see everything that happens in the village. So there's an exchange of gossip. Do you know that John left Mary's house last night at 3 o'clock in the morning? Because he can see everything from above. So that's where he lives, up in this tower. And when we go inside, we'll see the actual anchorite in the cell. And we'll go up into his cell too as well and see what it's like for him there. So the first wonder of Fore, the anchorite in the cell. Okay, so this we're looking at here at St. Fechin's Church, right? Now, Fechin's Church, this could have been the oratory for the original Abbey that would even start off in 630 AD. There would have been maybe a small stone oratory here where you would have prayed. But the rest of this was built in the 9th century, so way after Fechin had died, right? Now here you have the second wonder of Fore, which is this large lintel stone here, right? Now this is known as a Cyclopean stone, right? After the Greeks, the Cyclops, because you have this on a tomb that I've been to in the Peloponnese in Greece, and it dates back to nearly 600 BC. You have the Cyclopean stone, and the whole idea of the Cyclopean stone is only the Cyclops would have been strong enough to put it in place. You know, we have the same version of the story nearly thousands of years later. It's in Ireland here, and Fechin, the builders that are here cannot lift this stone up because it's too heavy. So they take a break, like all builders. Love a break, tea break, off to go. Fechin comes here, lifts it up with the power of prayer and puts it in place. That's not bad, considering Fechin is dead for 200 years. Right? So this is known as the Lintel-stone, or the floating lintel. Now, we're here at a site here that we're going to do the next 2 wonders of Fore, and they're all to do with water. Right? So the Irish word for Fore is Fore, the town of the springs. And we have underground water that is coming here. And part of the reason for that is when we look at that big rock up there, Ballar's Rock, that's called karstification. When limestone is driven upwards during upheaval, straight up through the ground and rises above the landscape. And that means that below there's a hole in the crust where that came from. And that's why the water from Lough Lane, it flows in at an area known as Fechin's Fingers, and it comes into Lough Lane and it comes out here. Fechin understands underground water. He was down at Con and he built an abbey down there, and there's underground water down there too as well. If you block up the sinkhole at Lough Lane, the water stops here in 45 minutes. Right, so when you want to do America, the outcome of America is something that people don't expect. So there's no point doing American in private, you want a big crowd. So he ordered a mill to be built, and there's the remains of a later mill there behind that ivy, a stone mill. So he ordered a mill to be built here, but there was no water for the mill wheel. And he has to feed his monks because he's getting more people into his monastery. And then he hires a millwright and puts him in the mill. Everybody's here for the opening day, and they go, "You're mad. There's no water here." And he goes, "God will provide." So he heads off down to Lough Lane with some of his monks. He takes his golden staff and he flings it out into the water. And it floats back into the water and it strikes a cliff. And the cliff parts. And you can still see it today. And you can go down and you can listen to the water falling into the sinkhole there. And it falls in there and it comes out here. So 2 wonders here. Because where the water comes in at Lough Lane is at a lower sea level than it comes out here. So this is the water that flows up the hill underground through chambers. And then so the mill without the race, the doubting millwright fell asleep in the mill wheel because he knew there was no water. Now when the water came gushing out, the wheel turned and killed the millwright. and the Fechin came back up here and seen the millwright was dead. So you do what all saints do. Now I'm going to show you. Shut your eyes. Right, keep your eyes shut. Okay. And don't smile. Right, okay, so Fechin does what everybody does. Stay still. Right, he brings the millwright back to life. Open your eyes. Look at that. Easiest miracle to do. Dead, not dead. And the millwright has to work for him forever for free because he brought him back to life. So the two wonders here, the water that flows up the hill and the mill without the race. So over there you have a rag tree, right? And it's known as a rag tree because you tie something on it. When you have somebody that is ill and things haven't gone their way and you've tried everything else, why wouldn't you just put something on the tree and ask Fechin to intercede on your behalf? Now it's a pre-Christian custom, but if you go over to that tree now and things change, you'll find a lot of COVID masks are now tied onto the tree. So not a good idea to get too close to it, by the way, but these are for people that they're trying to do an intercession by Fechin. Now there was a well there, and that was the original site for the tree that won't burn, right? When I bring school tours down here, we bring them to this tree down here, and we tell them the tree that won't burn, and one of them, for some reason, whip out a cigarette lighter and go, I'll burn it, right? It's going, the tree that won't burn is a message to tell you that the tree is sacred because it's beside a holy well, and it's not for mundane use like firewood. So it's warning you off burning it, right? So here you have an ash tree, which in Irish is called funchog, and the ash is the first tree to lose its leaves in autumn and the last tree to get its leaves in summertime or springtime. So it has certain powers to do with it. So what you have down here is people looking for intentions, right? So the council put in a fence here for some God-forsaken reason where these things should be on the tree. But again, as I said, you see current thing, you have COVID masks here now, which is the new thing. You have your sanitary gloves here. You have maybe from people that work in hospitals and stuff. You also have things, this is what the council protected, you have knickers and stuff tied here. But I tried to explain to them, this is about fertility too as well. You have children's stuff, there's a lot of children's stuff. When something is wrong with a child, you put something belonging to the child here. And you're looking for Fechin to help you out, right? And not just Fechin. Sometimes it goes back to the earlier god. So when you're desperate, you will try whatever you can do to keep your loved ones safe or to ensure yourself maybe a little bit against the pandemic that's here by putting one of your masks here to keep you safe. So you can see how topical this rag tree is because of what with the masks and stuff on. So this is the water that won't boil, which is the sixth wonder that we're talking about. Again, the same warning as the tree. The water here is a sacred holy well. Do not use it for mundane purposes like washing or boiling. You have to respect the fact that it is sacred. The word holy in the Christian faith comes from hole in the ground where water bubbles out of a spring. Water is the giver of life. You can't survive more than 7 days without water. So that's why water is so important. And that's why the ancient people were here. It means because it was sacred here because of the water that was coming from the ground. So the water that won't boil. The last wonder of Fore is the Benedictine Abbey here behind us, right? And it's meant to be built on a quaking sod, which is meant to be built on a bog. But this area around here would be easily flooded. You could dam the river and you can flood it, and then when you flood around here, you get the reflection of the Abbey in the water, so it's more important and more aesthetic. Also the water here in pre-Christian times, this is the way to the underworld. So when you fall into the water, your body comes back but your soul is gone. So that's how you get into the underworld. So that's why you have all the bog bodies in ceremonial burials are all in lakes, because you go straight down into the underworld there. Water is the giver and taker of life. So that's the seventh wonder is the monastery here built on the quaking sod, and you can see how boggy and how much water is around here. In reality, it's built on the foundation of that Iron Age ring fort that is right behind it. So they take part of that, and you can see the ridges as you walk around the Abbey from the defensive fosse that would have been on that ring fort there.